I should have known something was wrong that night. Not because she slipped up, not because she confessed, but because silence felt heavier than usual. Seattle was wrapped in rain, the kind that doesn't fall in sheets but lingers, a mist that blurs the streetlights and makes every sidewalk shine like wet glass. I had just parked the armored truck. My job was never glamorous, though it carried the weight of trust. People saw the steel, the guns, the vault doors. They didn't see the hours of monotony, the smell of oil and gunpowder, the exhaustion that seeped into your bones. All I wanted was to get home. Home meant her, Claire. My wife. My anchor, at least I thought. When I walked into the apartment, the first thing I noticed wasn't her, but the smell. Not perfume, though she wore one I could always recognize in a crowd, but food. Pasta, with too much garlic the way I liked it. She hated garlic. She used to joke it ruined her breath for days. And yet, here it was, simmering in the pan. "Hey," she said, turning around with a smile that felt both familiar and foreign. Her blonde hair was tied back, her eyes reflecting the kitchen light. She looked tired, but beautiful in that careless way people do when they've stopped trying to impress you and yet somehow still manage to. "You cooked?" I asked, dropping my jacket over the chair. Water dripped onto the hardwood floor, leaving dark patches. She shrugged. "Thought you'd be hungry." I wanted to believe it was nothing more than that. But the thought struck me like a stray bullet. Why now? She hadn't cooked in weeks, not like this. We ate. She asked me about my route, about whether my partner still chewed sunflower seeds while driving, the small things. I answered. I watched her more than I should have, trying to read between the lines of every gesture. It was just dinner. It should have been just dinner. But when she excused herself to take a phone call, I caught something, a look in her eyes before she turned away. Guilt? Maybe. Or maybe I was imagining it. The rain tapped harder against the windows, as if echoing my doubts. The next morning, she kissed me goodbye with the same softness she always had. But I felt something brittle underneath, like glass under pressure. Driving through downtown, I couldn't shake it. The drizzle smeared across the windshield, wipers squeaking, people rushing under umbrellas. Every stoplight reflected a question I didn't want to ask: what if she's lying to me? I told myself I was paranoid. I told myself routine kills love, and maybe she was just trying to surprise me with dinner, with garlic pasta she didn't even like. That had to mean something, didn't it? But deep down, a seed had been planted. And once it's there, you can't dig it out. You water it with every glance, every silence, every unexplained smile. That was the first crack. Over the next week, I noticed little things. Not obvious, not damning, just off. Her phone on silent more often than not. Her laughter when she texted someone at midnight. The way she lingered in the shower longer than usual, emerging with cheeks flushed not just from the steam. "Who are you talking to?" I asked one night, trying to sound casual. "Just Emily," she said quickly, naming her coworker. Too quickly. I nodded. She smiled. We kissed goodnight. But I couldn't fall asleep. Her phone lit up once on the nightstand, screen facing her side. I lay there in the dark, listening to her breathing, wondering if it was really Emily. I didn't touch the phone. Not then. But the thought haunted me. Seattle kept raining. It always did. I used to love it, used to find comfort in the gray skies, the way the city always felt like it was holding a secret. Now, every drop against the window sounded like a warning. I told myself I had to be sure. I couldn't accuse her without proof. Love deserves that, doesn't it? Evidence. Truth. Not just suspicion. But love, once cracked, is never quiet. It whispers in every moment. And I knew, even before I admitted it, that something was already broken. Morning routines have a way of numbing you, tricking you into believing everything is normal. The smell of coffee, the scrape of toast, the soft sound of slippers across hardwood floors, it all says, life is fine, nothing is wrong. That's how Claire fooled me, maybe how I fooled myself. She stood by the counter, pouring coffee into her travel mug, humming a song I didn't recognize. She never hummed before. She wasn't the humming type. Claire was deliberate, organized, efficient. Music, when it filled our apartment, came from playlists she curated meticulously, indie bands, soft piano pieces, sometimes old jazz. But never humming. "What's that tune?" I asked, sliding into a chair. She glanced at me, startled, as if I'd caught her doing something she wasn't supposed to. Then she smiled. "Oh, nothing. Just stuck in my head." "From where?" She shrugged. "Probably from the office. Emily's always playing music." There it was again, Emily. Always Emily. The phantom coworker I'd never met, the one who suddenly seemed to be the center of Claire's universe. I sipped my coffee and said nothing. Work didn't help distract me. The armored truck rattled through the city streets, the rain smeared across the windshield, and my partner, Dennis, droned on about his divorce. "She changed her hair first," Dennis said, unwrapping a candy bar. "That's how I knew. New cut, new color, all of a sudden she's reinventing herself. And not for me, believe me." I grunted, keeping my eyes on the road. Dennis chewed loudly. "Then she started cooking these fancy dinners. Stuff she never touched before. Like, who learns to make coco vin out of nowhere? She was cooking for him, not me. I just ate the leftovers." I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. "Garlic pasta." "Point is," Dennis said, spraying crumbs, "you gotta pay attention to the little things. They'll betray themselves if you're watching close enough." I nodded, though I didn't want to admit how closely his story mirrored mine. That evening, I came home earlier than usual. Claire wasn't there. Her car wasn't in the lot. She came in an hour later, carrying grocery bags. "Hey," she said, slightly breathless, cheeks flushed. "You're home early." "Yeah," I answered, keeping my tone even. "Where were you?" "Store," she said quickly, lifting the bags as evidence. I looked inside. Bread, milk, a bottle of red wine, chocolate. Nothing suspicious. Nothing concrete. But her hair was damp, not from rain, it hadn't rained that hour, but from a hurried shower. And there was perfume on her that wasn't the one I'd bought her last Christmas. That night, I dreamed of shadows. Claire walking ahead of me through the streets of Seattle, holding someone else's hand. I could never see his face, only the back of his head, broad shoulders under a dark coat. No matter how fast I ran, I couldn't catch up. I woke with a start, sweat cold on my neck. Claire slept beside me, her breathing soft, steady. I stared at the ceiling, heart pounding, and wondered if dreams were warnings or just echoes of fear. The following days blurred into each other. Claire laughed at her phone more often. She guarded it now, keeping it face down, carrying it even into the bathroom. She worked late twice that week, claiming deadlines, though I knew her office rarely demanded overtime. One night, I couldn't take it. She'd fallen asleep, phone resting on the nightstand. I lay awake, staring at it, my chest tight. I reached for it, fingers brushing the cool glass, then froze. What if I was wrong? What if it was really just Emily? What if my paranoia destroyed what little we had left? I pulled my hand back, turned away, and tried to sleep. But the glow of that phone, even in darkness, burned in my mind. Saturday came with rare sunshine. Claire suggested a walk along the waterfront. The city looked different under the light, brighter, softer. Families strolled, couples held hands, children fed seagulls. The air smelled of salt and grilled fish from nearby vendors. We walked side by side, but it felt like a performance. She looped her arm through mine, leaned her head briefly on my shoulder, laughed at small things. To anyone watching, we were a happy couple enjoying the day. But her laughter felt rehearsed. Her touch, fleeting. At one point, she pulled out her phone to take a picture of the bay. The screen lit up with a message preview before she tilted it away. I caught only a glimpse, just a first name I didn't recognize. Her thumb darted across the screen, quick, nervous. Then she slid the phone into her pocket and smiled at me like nothing happened. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" she said. I nodded, but the sun felt colder than rain. That night, while she showered, I stood by the window, staring at the city lights. Seattle stretched out before me, neon reflections in puddles, the hum of traffic, the distant call of a ferry horn. I thought of Dennis, of his words about haircuts and dinners. I thought of garlic pasta, of humming songs, of secret smiles at midnight texts. It wasn't proof. Not yet. But it was enough to haunt me. When Claire came out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, she looked at me with a softness that nearly broke me. "You okay?" she asked. I forced a smile. "Yeah. Just tired." She kissed me, damp hair brushing my cheek. And in that kiss, I searched for truth. All I found was distance. Suspicion eats at you, but certainty kills. It happened on a Tuesday night. I remember because Tuesdays were always the same. Claire worked until 6, came home by 6:30, we had dinner, sometimes watched a show, sometimes not. Predictable. Safe. But that night, she didn't come home at all. At 7, I told myself traffic. At 7:30, maybe she stopped by the store. At 8, I called. No answer. At 8:30, I called again. Straight to voicemail. Something inside me snapped. I grabbed my jacket, keys jangling in my trembling hand, and drove. Her office was dark when I pulled up. Empty parking lot. But her car wasn't there either. I drove downtown, no plan, just instinct. And then I saw it, her car, parked outside a hotel. A cheap one, with flickering neon that read vacancy, the kind of place people go to be forgotten. My chest caved in. For a long minute, I couldn't breathe. The rain blurred the windshield, or maybe it was my eyes. I pulled over across the street and waited. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard they ached. And then, the door opened. Claire stepped out first. Her hair was messy, her coat thrown on hastily. Behind her came a man, tall, dark-haired, wearing a shirt unbuttoned at the collar. He said something that made her laugh, that same laugh she used to save for me. They kissed. Right there, under the neon sign. Not a peck. Not something I could misinterpret. A kiss full of heat, of familiarity, of everything that used to belong to me. The world went silent. The city noise, the rain, the hum of traffic, gone. All I could hear was the blood pounding in my ears. I don't remember deciding to move. My body acted on its own. I slammed the car door shut, the sound cracking through the night. Claire froze. Her eyes found me across the street, wide, terrified. The man stepped back, confused. "Mark," she whispered when I crossed the street. Her voice cracked like glass. "Don't," I said. My own voice was low, trembling, dangerous even to me. "Don't say my name like that." The man raised his hand slightly. "Hey, man, calm down." "Shut up," I snapped, my eyes never leaving hers. She reached out, as if to touch me, then pulled her hand back. "I can explain." "Explain?" I laughed, hollow and sharp. "Explain what?" "That you worked late. That Emily texted you again." Her face crumpled. Tears welled up, but I didn't believe them. "Not anymore." The man shifted uncomfortably. Claire, maybe we should. Shut up. My voice shook with rage. You don't get to say her name. Claire sobbed once, covering her mouth. Mark, please. I stepped closer, close enough to see the smear of lipstick on her skin, not mine. Close enough to smell his cologne lingering on her clothes. And in that moment, the final crack split wide open. There was no denial left. No excuses. No garlic pasta to cover the stench of betrayal. It was real. It was right in front of me. And it destroyed me. We didn't speak on the drive home. She rode in the passenger seat, crying silently. I stared ahead, hands locked on the wheel, the city lights blurring into streaks of color. Every block, every red light, every turn, I replayed the kiss. The way she leaned into him, the way she laughed, the way she used to with me. By the time we reached the apartment, I didn't know if I hated her more or myself. The apartment felt smaller that night, like the walls had shifted inward, pressing us closer together while forcing us further apart. Claire sat at the edge of the couch, her hands clasped so tightly I thought her knuckles might split. I stood by the window, staring out at Seattle's skyline, lights shimmering against the drizzle. I couldn't look at her, not yet. Finally, she spoke. Mark, her voice was raw, broken. Please. Just, let me explain. I turned, slowly. Explain what? I saw you. I watched you walk out of that hotel with him. I watched you kiss him like, my throat closed. Like I don't even exist. She flinched, tears already spilling. It's not what you think. I laughed, sharp, bitter. Don't you dare say that. Don't insult me with that cliché. I saw it. What the hell do you call it then? Her lips trembled. I didn't mean for it to happen. Didn't mean for it. My voice rose. Claire, people don't just accidentally fall into hotels with strangers. He's not a stranger, she blurted, then covered her mouth, horrified by her own words. I froze. My chest tightened. Say that again. Her shoulders shook. Mark, please. Say it. I roared, the sound bouncing off the walls. She crumbled, sobbing. His name is Daniel. We met months ago. At work. It just happened. The room spun. My hands trembled, fists clenching at my sides. Months. Not days. Not a mistake. Months. I forced the words out, each one like a knife in my own throat. So every time you told me you were working late, every time you smiled at your phone at midnight, it was him. She shook her head desperately. It wasn't all lies. I still love you. Love? The word tasted like poison. You don't get to say that to me anymore. You don't get to use that word. She covered her face with her hands, sobbing into them. I didn't want to hurt you. Then why did you? My voice cracked, anger and grief colliding. Why wasn't I enough? What the hell was missing? She looked up at me, eyes red, mascara running. I don't know, she screamed, her voice breaking. I don't know, Mark. I felt trapped, I felt like I was disappearing. And then he noticed me. He listened. He made me feel alive again. Her confession hung in the air like smoke, suffocating. I staggered back, as if she had physically struck me. So I was just, what? A routine? A paycheck? A warm body next to you in bed? No, she cried, crawling toward me on her knees. You're my husband. You're everything to me. I made a mistake. I stepped away from her touch, my whole body recoiling. A mistake is one night. A mistake isn't months of lying, of sneaking, of letting him touch you while I waited at home like a fool. Her sobs filled the silence. Outside, the rain picked up, lashing against the windows, as if the city itself was punishing us. I pressed my hands against my face, my chest aching, my breath uneven. God, Claire. I gave you everything. I trusted you. Her voice dropped to a whisper, barely audible through her tears. I know. And I destroyed it. I destroyed us. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The only sound was her crying and the storm outside. Finally, I found my voice, cold and hollow. You need to leave. Her head snapped up, eyes wide. Mark, no. Please. We can fix this. We can. There's nothing left to fix, I said. My voice was flat, final. Not after tonight. She reached out one last time, but I turned away. I couldn't stand her touch. And just like that, silence swallowed the room again. The silence of endings. The sound of the door closing behind her was quieter than I expected. Not a slam, not a dramatic finality, just a click. But it echoed like a gunshot through the apartment. I stood in the living room, staring at the space she had just occupied. The couch, where her body had trembled under the weight of confession. The carpet, where her knees had pressed into the fibers as she begged. The air itself still smelled faintly of her perfume, mixed with the storm outside. And yet, she was gone. I lowered myself into a chair, my legs weak. For the first time in years, the apartment didn't feel like home. It felt like a stage after the actors had left, props still standing, but the play long over. Hours passed without meaning. I didn't eat. I didn't drink. I just sat there, watching the rain blur the city lights through the window. Every sound outside felt amplified, the hiss of tires on wet pavement, the distant wail of a siren, the buzz of a neon sign from the diner across the street. Normal city noises. But in my head, they became reminders, life goes on. The world doesn't stop for broken hearts. I thought about the hotel. The way her lips curved against his. The way her laughter filled the air, light and unashamed. I replayed it again and again, as if punishing myself with the evidence. And then I thought of her words, he made me feel alive again. Alive. So what was I to her? Dead weight? A ghost she tolerated? The thought hollowed me out. Around midnight, I finally moved. I opened the fridge, staring at leftovers, bottles, and the garlic pasta she had once made. My stomach turned. I shut it. Instead, I reached for the whiskey on the shelf. I poured until the glass was full, not measured. The first burn down my throat numbed me. The second made me feel heavy. The third blurred the edges of the room. Drunk, I walked through the apartment like it was a museum of a life that no longer belonged to me. The photo on the wall, Claire and me in Portland last summer, arms around each other, smiling like the world was ours. I pulled it down, stared at it, then hurled it across the room. Glass shattered against the floor. In the bedroom, her sweater lay on the chair, soft, pale blue. I picked it up, pressed it to my face. It smelled like her. For a moment, I broke, sobbing into it, my body shaking with the kind of pain no bullet could ever deliver. But then the pain turned sharp. Rage. Why did she get to walk away? Why did she get to feel alive while I drowned? I grabbed my phone. My thumb hovered over her number. Part of me wanted to call, to scream, to demand answers she'd never give. Another part wanted to beg her to come back, to tell me it was all a nightmare. Instead, I opened a blank text. Does he make you feel more alive than I ever did? I stared at it, fingers trembling, then deleted it. No. She didn't deserve my words anymore. But Daniel did. The thought of him filled me with a different kind of fire. I imagined his smug face, his hands on her, the way he looked at me outside that hotel, like I was just an obstacle, something to be brushed aside. I slammed my fist into the wall, pain shooting up my arm. My knuckles split, blood smearing the white paint. I wanted to hurt him. I wanted him to feel the weight of what he'd taken from me. By dawn, I hadn't slept. The whiskey was gone, the apartment a mess of broken glass and scattered memories. Claire hadn't called. Not once. And in that silence, I made a decision. I wasn't going to be the man who sat alone in his apartment, drinking himself into oblivion while his wife rebuilt her life with someone else. No. If she thought Daniel made her feel alive, I'd show them both what it meant to be haunted. The storm outside eased into a gray, heavy drizzle, but inside me, something darker brewed. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I didn't plan it like a soldier. There was no blueprint, no grand design. It was simpler than that, raw, human, ugly. All I knew was this: they had taken something from me. And I wasn't going to sit in the ruins and pretend I could rebuild. It started with the hotel. The same one where I first caught them. I waited in my car 2 nights in a row, engine off, windows cracked just enough to hear the city breathing around me. They were creatures of habit, just like I once thought Claire and I had been. And I was right. On the 3rd night, their car pulled up. Same neon vacancy sign flickering overhead, same rain-slick pavement reflecting broken light. I watched them step out, laughing like thieves who believed they'd never be caught. Daniel's arm curled around her waist as if she belonged to him. She looked lighter, freer, like she'd shed me like an old skin. Something inside me snapped so cleanly it almost felt like relief. I followed them in. The clerk barely looked up when I walked past, raincoat hood pulled low, face shadowed. My boots left a wet trail on the linoleum. Room 214. The number burned in my brain as I heard the door click shut behind them. I waited. 1 minute. 2. Long enough for clothes to start hitting the floor. Then I knocked. Housekeeping. Silence at first, then muffled laughter. Daniel's voice: "We didn't order any." I knocked again, harder this time. The door opened a crack, and that was all I needed. I shoved it wide, stepping inside before Daniel could process it. Claire gasped, clutching the sheets to her chest. His shirt hung open, his belt half undone. "Mark," Claire's voice trembled. I didn't look at her. My eyes locked on him. Daniel stepped forward, raising his hands. "Listen, man, this isn't." I punched him. The sound of bone meeting flesh was louder than thunder. He staggered back, hit the nightstand, sent a lamp crashing to the floor. Claire screamed. I hit him again. And again. Each strike fueled by every lie, every text, every laugh I'd replayed in my head. His blood smeared across my knuckles, warm and slick, mixing with the cuts I'd given myself on the wall days earlier. "Mark, stop!" Claire cried, grabbing my arm. "You'll kill him." I turned on her, chest heaving, vision swimming red. "And what, Claire? He deserves to live after everything you did. After everything you took." Tears streaked her face, her voice breaking. "Please, please, this isn't you." I laughed bitterly, shoving her away. "You don't know me anymore." Daniel groaned on the floor, coughing blood, but still breathing. Pathetic. Weak. I stood over him, fist raised one last time, ready to finish it. But then I saw my reflection in the cracked mirror on the wall. Not Daniel. Not Claire. Me. My face twisted with rage, eyes hollow, lips curled back like an animal. And I realized, this was all I had left. Rage. Violence. Nothing of the man I once was. Slowly, I lowered my fist. Daniel gasped, clutching his ribs. Claire sobbed silently, trembling in the sheets. I wiped the blood from my hands onto the bedspread and backed toward the door. You don't get me anymore, I told her. My voice was hoarse, almost unrecognizable. You don't get us. You don't get anything. And then I looked at Daniel, writhing on the floor. And if I ever see you again, I won't stop next time. I walked out into the rain. The neon buzzed behind me, the city lights smearing across wet pavement like broken promises. For the first time in weeks, the air felt clear in my lungs. Not better. Not whole. Just, clear. I didn't know where I was going. The apartment wasn't home anymore, and Claire was a ghost I could never bury. But I knew one thing, they would never forget me. Not her. Not him. And maybe that was my justice. Maybe that was enough. The end.